back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. I'm Dr. Rita Louise, and we're talking with Michael Cremo kind of about his book, The Forbidden Archaeologist. We're talking about all kinds of things, Hindu cosmology. And Michael, where we left off, we were talking about the de-evolution of man into a physical body. In many other traditions, or this is the line that I've heard over the years, that we've taken on physical bodies so that we can learn how to interact with the limitations of the 3D world. And it sounds like what you're saying is, and for, bluntness sake, that we're stupid and greedy and egotistical, or we needed to experience that part of ourselves, and that's why we're stuck here. And now I feel really guilty.
Well, there are two types of people in the world, conscious selves in this world. There's one type who has an inkling that I'm not just meant to dominate, control, and exploit matter. That's not my main purpose. I'm a being of pure consciousness, and I'm ultimately from some other level of reality where I existed in harmony with all other conscious beings and with the source of all conscious beings. And such persons will try to realize that on this level of reality. They will treat everyone as another being of pure consciousness who may have forgotten that and may be acting in a strange way, but ultimately is related to me, just as I am related to everyone who is a being of, a conscious being, originally a being of pure consciousness, all from the same source. We're all related. No need to be fighting with each other, competing with each other for control of material resources. And I think if those who understand this were more numerous, even this material world would be a much better place. But unfortunately, there are those who are trying to get more and more deeply involved in the attempts to dominate, control, and exploit matter in competition with others for survival. And I think that's the root of our environmental crisis. It's the root of our financial crisis. There are those who are selfish, who are trying to exploit the systems that are there to a greater extent than they deserve. And it's also the root of a lot of the conflicts that we see going on in the world today, because there's conflict among individuals, among classes, among nations, even among religions. But this is a choice that each of us has to make, how we're going to identify ourselves. And I think the more that we identify ourselves as all related to each other, all beings of pure consciousness, all with some higher purpose in life than trying to dominate, control, and exploit matter. And by matter, I mean oil, natural gas, different resources, financial resources, bodies of others. If that exploitative, dominating, controlling mentality were given up in favor of this other mentality that I was talking about, even this world would be a much better place. It just depends upon our mentality.
In that movie, Avatar, which you brought up before, which we're going to go on in a little bit and talk about the different avatars of Vishnu, but I thought one of the most, prophetic isn't the right word. One of the lines in that movie was when the female character put her hand on the male character's chest and looked at him and said, "I see you." And I think that, we don't see each other in that higher consciousness, soul-to-soul way, or not all that often. And, my feeling is that if we could connect with each other on that level, that it would force us. It's not even force us. We would get knocked out of that material place automatically.
Yeah, and that's one reason why there are different systems of yoga and meditation that are there as part of the Vedic worldview. And one of them is called kirtan, which means joining together vibrating transcendental sound. And this is becoming popular in a lot of yoga studios. Yoga has become very popular all over the place. There are lots of yoga studios where initially they were just simply concentrating on the bodily positions. But then they also realized that transcendental sound vibration, the vibration of mantras together musically, is something that can elevate consciousness and bring those who are practicing yoga into that higher level of recognizing each other and all others as beings of pure consciousness ultimately, rather than looking simply at the material level where you perceive differences. Of course, differences are there. They have to be taken into account. But ultimately, we are related to each other on some higher level of pure consciousness. And when this is understood, then you get you develop, your relationships start to change for the better in terms of being able to relate to people more as beings of pure consciousness rather than just as we're taught in our biology classrooms, machines made of matter in competition with each other for survival.
Well, let's go ahead and move on and start talking a little bit about the different incarnations of Vishnu, and I'm just going to kind of give that to you. I mean, I have some questions, but maybe you can set it up for the listeners and kind of give them some, background and information about it to start.
Well, the basic idea is that there is a supreme conscious being who's known as Vishnu or Krishna. They're different names, but that supreme conscious being exists on the highest level of spiritual reality, beyond the material world. But when we leave that higher level of reality, which we've all done, in that sense we're all extraterrestrials. None of us are from this earth. We're all from that higher ultimate level of reality, which I call the realm of pure consciousness, or you could call it the spiritual world. And people might have different terminologies for it. I like the realm of pure consciousness. If we depart from that level and we come here to get away from that harmonious world and have the freedom to act selfishly. So when we do that, the supreme conscious being will enter this level of reality to give teachings, to try to remind us of what our real home is, what our real place in the cosmos is, that we really don't belong on this level of reality where we undergo what's called samsara, the wheel of birth and death, where we, our material body, although the conscious self is eternal and has no birth or death, the bodily vehicle that we occupy does have a birth and a death. And when one bodily vehicle is finished, we go into another bodily vehicle. That's called reincarnation. And that can go on and on and on and on. So from time to time, the Supreme Conscious Being will manifest in this level of reality to remind us about what our real home is, what our real purpose of life should be. And those manifestations are called avatars. Avatar means one who descends from a higher level to a lower level. And it's done out of a desire to reawaken the original consciousness of the conscious selves who are on this level of reality. So there are many avatars of Vishnu or Krishna that are described in the Vedic literature. Some of them, one of them is called Matsya, and another is called Nrsimha, and another, there's a lot of them.
So this is where I get confused, and so because this is where I was kind of leading to. The first couple, the Matsya that you spoke about, or there's Cremo, the tortoise.
Yeah.
I have my little cheat sheet sitting in front of me, so I actually know their name and don't just go, that guy. Or Varna, the boar. So we have, so those are supposedly the first incarnations of Vishnu. So we have a fish and a tortoise and a boar. And so this is where I get confused, and I'm hoping you can clear this up with me, and anybody that's interested in this maybe will get some insight. Why would Vishnu incarnate as these animals as opposed to incarnating in a human body like he does later on? I mean, on the earth, were we in a lower, and I hate to say this word to you, but in a lower state of evolution where a fish was the highest level of consciousness, or?
No, if you look at, there's a whole body of Vedic literature, the historical part of the Vedic literature, which is called the Puranas. So all these different manifestations take place at different points in time for different reasons. The boar incarnation that you mentioned, Varaha, that took place in the early history of the cosmos, because according to the Vedic cosmology, the cosmos goes in cycles. There are vast cycles of creation and destruction. There are huge inundations that take place during the destruction parts of the cycles, so that the earth is lost in the oceans of destruction. And when the earth is lost in the oceans of destructions, it has to ultimately be brought back up to the surface. It has to be restored to its proper state. And in the Vedic cosmology, the avatar of God that does that is called Varaha, the boar incarnation. Now, that is we have to have firmly in our minds that God can take on any form he wants. Say in the Bible, he takes the form of a burning bush. That doesn't mean he became a burning. He ultimately is a burning bush. It means he took on that form for a particular purpose. It's also said that God took the form of a whirlwind. So this is something that we have to keep in mind, that according to not just the Vedic traditions, but all of the major spiritual traditions, God has the ability to take on different forms for different purposes. It's not that God is limited to the form that he takes on for a particular purpose, but that's something he can do, like an actor can act out different roles in different films or different plays. So for the purpose of bringing the earth from the waters, the oceans of devastation, where it was drowned, back to the surface, according to the Vedic cosmology, early in the universal history, God manifested a form like that of a boar, because what a boar could do is like dive into a body of water, and with its tusk, it can dig into the mud at the bottom and pick up an object and bring it to the surface. That's one thing it can do. So there was a purpose like that for that particular manifestation or avatar of Vishnu, and it has to be seen in the context of this whole cosmic history, where at certain points there's a devastation, there's a vast cosmic inundation when the earth goes down under these waters of cosmic devastation and ultimately has to be brought back to the surface. So there are stories like that behind all of the different avatars that you have in your list there.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. Let me ask this question. I guess what you're saying is that this list it's not necessarily chronological. Would that be a correct thing to say? You know, time-wise,
It may be like roughly, chronological, but say, for example, another thing that happens during these devastations. You mentioned the fish incarnation, Matsya. Of course, these aren't ordinary. Whether we're talking about the boar or the fish or the tortoise, they're not ordinary farmyard types of animals that we're talking about. We're talking about cosmic manifestations of vast size and potency and full of spiritual energies and manifesting, just brilliant colors and energies and illumination and things of that sort. We're not talking about, just the ordinary sorts of animals we would see in a zoo or something like that. So this, and they appear repeatedly because there are cycles of creation and destruction that go on according to the Vedic cosmological calendar or the Mayan calendar or any number. So one thing that happens when these devastations come, and it's not going to be in 2012 according to the Vedic cosmology, but there is going to be
we're going to come back to that later.
There is a cosmic
That's totally the topic
and
I want to cover.
It does involve the inundation of the earth with cosmic waters of destruction. And when that happens, there has to be some way to, and this is sort of a common feature of many spiritual traditions. And this was mentioned in the most recent episode of the Ancient Aliens series, is that practically every wisdom tradition in the world has some kind of flood legend or story. And the Vedic cosmology also has this. I think the reason why all these different world cultures have these flood legends is that it's something that really does happen at some point in the vast cycles of time, universal time. So in the Vedic legend, there was a king. In the Bible, it's Noah, and in the Sumerian text, it's Utnapishtim. It's there's in the Vedic text, there's a king named Satyavrata. He's given warning that this cosmic ocean of devastation is going to inundate the earth. So, like Noah, he was instructed to build an ark and put the seeds of all different types of plants and animals in that ark, and then also the knowledge, human wisdom, the accumulated wisdom of humanity, the Vedic wisdom also, that was also to be saved. So then when this ocean of cosmic devastation came and devastated the earth, then not only was the boat there, because the boat could have gotten whipped around or sunk or something. So according to the Puranas, there was an avatar of Vishnu, Matsya, who took the form of a huge fish and protected and guided this boat. Just like sometimes we encounter legends like Jonah and the whale, for example. Jonah was thrown in the ocean and a whale, protected him. Or sometimes we even hear stories of how dolphins will protect people. There's lots of stories about how aquatic animals will protect and guide people, take them back to shore. So in this particular legend of Matsya, this historical account of Matsya that's there in the Puranas, the fish avatar, that's the reason it's there. That during the cosmic devastations, when the king is building this boat, to protect, the plants and the animals and the Vedic knowledge, this Matsya avatar, this fish avatar, guides that boat through the waters, and then eventually when the waters start to go down, it's led to a particular peak, of the Himalayan mountains, and from that point, the earth is repopulated. So this is something that recurs time and time again. So it's not necessarily that everything's just happening once in a linear fashion. These are recurring events in the vast cycles of time that the Vedic cosmology talks about. And there are very, very detailed accounts of these things that are given in the Puranas, the historical writings of the Vedic culture.
I know, and there are a ton of them. And they're all really long.
Yes, they are. They're great epics. There's fantastic amounts of knowledge in them. There's one Purana that's regarded as the essence of all of them. It's called the Bhagavat Purana, or the Srimad Bhagavatam. So if anybody wanted to delve into the Puranic literature, they could read that one Purana and get the essence of all of them. It's called the Bhagavat Purana, or another name for it is the Srimad Bhagavatam.
I want to ask about one more avatar, because we have about 4 minutes till we go to break, and that's Rama. And in the material that I've been reading, he was helped, or at least in the mythology, by a monkey or an ape man or something, Hanuman. And I just found that really curious that, okay, so we're humans and we're doing this human thing, but then he's helped by an ape man. And it just brought up all kinds of really interesting interpretations of what that could mean. And I'd like to hear, what that's supposed to be about.
Well, that's really fascinating. Generally, we think that the idea of ape man came from European scientists in the 19th century. They, thought, okay, human beings must have evolved from apes, so they proposed there must have been some ape men, some missing links from which modern humans evolved. So that's what most people think is the origin of the idea of ape men. But the Puranas and the other historical writings of ancient India spoke of ape men thousands of years ago, way before European and Western scientists started speculating about their existence. So that's what I find is really pretty fascinating. So the Rama was an avatar of Vishnu or Krishna, and in the Puranas it's said that he lived in the Treta Yuga, which would be at least 2 million years ago in terms of the Vedic time cycle, and perhaps as much as 20 million years ago. So it's pretty amazing, but if you read the accounts, you'll see that Rama was assisted by different human beings in his mission. And the mission of an avatar of Vishnu coming to this world is always to try to help those who are trying to understand what their real origin is, who are working for peace and harmony in the world, who are working for real, true spirituality, not sectarian religion, but real, true spirituality, and trying to keep down the influence of those who have this selfish, dominating, exploitative nature and who are causing trouble to the earth, trouble to the earth's residents. So that's the mission of an avatar. So Ram was an avatar, and he was fighting a great demon named Ravana, who was the personification of this selfish, egotistical, greedy mentality. And in his efforts, Ram was assisted by humans, but also by a race of beings called, in Sanskrit, Vanaras, and that means forest people. And they are described as having bodies like those of apes or monkeys, but human-like intelligence and the ability to speak as humans do. And they have a culture not as high as that of human beings, but higher than that of apes and monkeys. So this idea of intermediates between human beings and apes is something that wasn't invented by Charles Darwin and his modern followers. It was there long ago in the ancient Sanskrit writings of India. But the interesting thing is that it's not that the human beings evolved from the ape men, rather they simply coexisted with them. They were just different types of beings who coexisted with each other, not that one came from the other.
Okay, well, the music's there, which means we need to stop. I'd like to get your opinion, because we're talking about bodies, evidence from 3 million years ago, who they belong to or what that belongs to. I'm Dr. Rita Louise. We're talking to Michael Cremo. We'll be back with Michael after these words from our sponsors.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.